Okay, looks like we have people coming in, and we're just going to wait a moment to let more people in the room, and then I'll introduce Bren. It's nice to have a big crowd of SIBA and NABA booksellers today, too. I always love that. All right, well, I'm going to get started with the introduction. Hi, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, Making the Most of Your Pitch to Publicists with presenter Bren McClain. Today's event is prep for next week's publicity speed dating event, but it'll also be quite helpful for building your skills around self-presentation, particularly online when in conversation with authors, book club members, or industry colleagues. I've seen Bren present for her bestseller, One Good Mama Bone, and she knocked my socks off. So I'm really excited to see her presentation and to take notes too. But Bren is not only an author, she's a communications coach with her own business, McClain Communications. Bren's been helping speakers across the country for 30 years, making the most of their opportunities, be it a speech, a panel, a town hall, or talking to reporters. Her clients run the gamut of industries and include AT&T, Equifax, the Cincinnati Reds, Turner Broadcasting, Marriott, and even publishing. Back in the day, she helped many Algonquin authors make the most of their opportunities on television, including Larry Brown, who appeared on the Today Show, which is a story I'd love to hear more about. Before Bren was a coach, she worked in television news at various stations across the Southeast. She's created a very handy handout that she'll refer to in her presentation, and then we'll email it to all of you after the presentation so you can use it for your prep practice. After her presentation, we'll be taking questions. So if you have questions for her, please put them in the Q&A, and then I'll be asking them of her later on. So Bren, I'm going to turn this over to you now. Thank you so much for your time.
It's my pleasure. Thank you, Linda Marie. That was a great introduction. I was telling Linda Marie, I volunteered to do this when I saw that this speed dating type format was going to be happening. I said, I have some skills I think could help. It feels like giving back to you good folks who've given so much to me. As Linda Marie said, I've spent 30 years, oh my gosh, 30 years making really communications my life. And I want to share with you all some things that I wholeheartedly believe in. So let me just set your sights right off the bat for what I think of as good as it gets. And it's what I'm going to urge you all to aim at. And I want you to know that what I'm talking about today is not just appropriate for this specific pitching of publicists, but really any time you have a communications opportunity. So let me set your sights. This is as good as it gets, that you show your authentic, genuine self. See, folks, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be you. The second thing, that you make it personal. And then 3, that you share with passion. Show your genuine, authentic self, you make it personal, and then you share with passion. Let me tell you a story that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was doing a talk about my book in Dixon, Tennessee at a library. It's an hour or so west of Nashville. And after the talk, I got an email from a lady who had been in the little talk. And here's what she said to me. She said, here's verbatim, she says, "Your emotions spoke to me more than your words." Wow, what? Here I am talking about my book, and she says, "Your emotions spoke to me more than your words." I believe that. You see, and I'm just going to give you one little math thing here. Studies show that your impact on someone else, folks, is 90% other than words. And what do? We spend our time thinking about all the what I think of as the almighty content, right? It's the speech, it's the PowerPoint, it's the talking points, it's the bullets, words, words, words. And listen, let me just tell you right now, words matter. But like a volleyball match, words, in my opinion, just kind of boom, get the ball up in the air. But to get it over the net, it's this 90% factor that I think about. And folks, that is your level of enthusiasm, your level of good energy, your level of passion, your level of sincerity, those kinds of things. That's what gets it over the net. You see, back to content. Let's spell that word. CONTENT. All right, I'm going to get rid of the TENT, and I'm just going to keep the first three letters, CON. And I'm going to tell you, finish that word in a different way and show you where your real power lies. And that's in connection. CONNECTION, connection. And that was underscored to me at that event in Dixon when the woman said that your emotions spoke more to me than your words. So folks, one of the things I want to just kind of lay out here and put on the table right off the bat is my very strong belief in connection. That really is what sets really good communicators apart. Connecting with the material, first off, the content, and then connecting with the audience. So I want to spend a little time talking about connecting with the content. I know you all have put together the press packet and with some information. I want to just go over maybe some things that I would urge you to be thinking about in preparation, in prepping your words, trying to get your material connected to that material. Now I said personal, remember? That was the second thing I said, to make it personal. Here's some questions, and these questions are listed in that handout that Linda Marie will send you. First thing I'd be thinking about is, what is my goal? I mean, why are you even talking to this publicist? And folks, I would make it specific instead of a generic, goal for everybody. I would think about, are there specific publicists at specific houses that you have a specific goal for? For example, trying to interest a certain author to come to your store. That's a specific goal. Or are you just wanting to get on their radar? So I would know right off the bat what it is I'm driving. What am I really after? Because this will help you keep steering the conversation over to what you came to say. So again, first thing I'd think about is, what is my goal? What am I after? And I'm one of these people that writes stuff down. And if I can look at it, it helps kind of congeal it, if you will. I'd think about, what gives you energy to talk about? When you talk about your store, where do you feel your energy rising? And then where does it, kind of go flat? I'd pay attention to what really juices you up, that gives you energy. I'd be thinking about what your secret sauce is at your store. I mean, what do you do really, really well? What do you, if you wanted to brag a little bit, if I could use that word, I mean, what is it that you've got going on in your store? And we all know you can't be everything to all people, nor can any bookstore be everything to everybody. But I bet you right now that you all have something that you do really well. I would know what that is, because when you're talking to a publicist, you've got your energy up, is I'd want to share that. I'd want to share what it is that I've got to offer them. I mean, what are you offering? I mean, what space can you claim? Where are your successes? I would keep that front and center in my head as I'm brainstorming all of the cool stuff that I want to say in these 15 minutes. Another question: what's the coolest thing you can tell them about your store? What's the coolest thing that you've seen happen at your store, that you've witnessed? So what's the coolest thing? That kind of energy, folks, are gonna make these publicists like sit up and listen like, woo, woo, woo. Because you see, your energy is contagious. Sometimes I've found in years and years working with people is that we sometimes expect our audience, whether it's one person or 500 people, we sometimes expect them to have the energy, and that we're up there delivering whatever we have to deliver. But folks, I got to tell you, it begins with you. You set the tone. If you're ever wanting to energize that publicist and coming along with you, then you yourself first must be energized. You yourself must think that, man alive, you've got some cool stuff you cannot wait to share about your store. And so it begins with you. What about if you had to sell yourself? I mean, what can you say that you've done for that store? I mean, what have you contributed to the success of your store? I would know what that is too. I would write it down. I mean, what do you consider your biggest success? And what do you love about your store? What do you love about your job? Questions that I'm giving you now are, just some kind of triggers in your head to see if any of this kind of gets your own juices going is what I'm wanting to do. And then I would ask you, as you are creating all of this material, you're writing it down, you're brainstorming it, you can feel yourself, your juices start to go. Is there any kind of a theme, kind of a main point that keeps coming up, that it's kind of a part of a lot of your answers? You know what I'm saying? It just kind of keeps rising up. The reason I ask you this is because I created a format a few years ago for my clients, because I found that their information they were relaying, whether it was to a reporter or in a speech or whatever, I found that basically everything they said kind of weighed the same. Nothing really weighed the most. Everything was just kind of, throw it out there. And they were making their audiences kind of get needle and thread and stitch it together. I'm all about a more deliberate approach to communication. And that deliberate approach speaks to this message tree. So I said to myself, what out there in the real world can I borrow to use as kind of a template, kind of an analogy for this? And immediately, y'all, I thought of a tree. And a tree has what? It has a trunk, that main centering device, doesn't it? That trunk. And then coming off of the big trunk would be these things called limbs or branches, pieces of supporting information that support the main trunk, right? And then further off the limbs are these things called leaves. And so leaves would be kind of like specifics, factoids, data points. And I found in my 30 years of coaching that most of us are much more comfortable speaking at what I think of as the leaf level, those factoid things, just a bunch of information, but you really haven't taken the time to sew it up, to make kind of a so what. And this trunk I like to think of is kind of the essence of what you're saying. It's kind of the big picture of what you're talking about. So again, I would be listening out as I'm talking, or if you're writing your answers down, and we can talk about this in the Q&A, we can talk about some possible trunks. What is your main point? What if, you get an opportunity with this publicist and, you say your trunk, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, the interview's cut short. Well, at least you've had your say. And so this trunk really helps shape how you want that publicist to think about you and your store. What you said, what, Brent? Yeah, that's what a good communicator does. A good communicator shapes how we want someone else to think about what we're saying. So that's why we on the front end have to shape it ourselves. So we'll talk about that when we get down to the Q&A. But above it all, in your words, folks, I urge you to be positive. I don't think any of you would, but just for me to say, I mean, you would never go on and complain, right? You say, oh, I wanted author so-and-so, and somebody up the road got him or her and I didn't. Negative energy, what does that do? Negative energy repels. Positive energy attracts, just like a magnet. So we want to stay on the positive side, and we want to do that. So that's connecting with material, connecting with my words. And I hope I've helped you kind of brainstorm some things to start thinking about. But now let's turn our attention to connecting with the audience, which is absolutely critical. Because if you don't connect, then it was kind of moot. I always tell my clients, if you bother to show up, then you bother to show up. Sometimes we're more comfortable with PowerPoint doing our talking and blah, blah, blah. But you personally, I mean, back to what I said at the outset, is that you're there to show your genuine, authentic self. You're there to make it personal, and you're there to share your passion. And that requires you showing up. So connecting with the audience is so important. And I'm going to talk here in a minute about the physicality of kind of working within the confines of this box that we're in Zoom. But I always like it when I can see the person I'm talking to. I don't know what your setup is going to be. I'm thinking maybe so. I'm thinking maybe you will be able to see the publicist you're talking to. I certainly hope so. And I hope that you've got enough courage to pay attention to see if they're catching it or not. I worked with a client a couple of weeks ago, and his PR person sent me an interview that he had done, like 20-minute interview with a reporter. And she asked him a bunch of questions and he said a bunch of stuff. And while he was talking on and on and on and on and on, this information dump that he was doing, this reporter was doing this. She was like throwing her hair back like this and almost like sighing. And I'd see her like cut her eyes off and out. And I said, my gosh, this man's not paying any attention. He should be taking cues from her that, she's checked out. He's not connecting with her at all. So to me, it's very important that you see the person you're talking to. Now, when we're working within the confines of this box, what do we have? What do we have? We've got our facial expression, pleasant look on our face, smile, as much as we can, pleasant look on our face, eyes, good steady eye contact, looking in the camera, and then our voice. Folks, I think our voices are our most underutilized asset. I don't know how many of you kind of suffer from, mono talk, but energy in our voice is critical. And there's 3 components to our voices. That's how fast, like the speed, right? And then there's the tone, whether it's, business-like, hard or soft. And then there's the volume. And really good communicators can vary those things. Sometimes talk kind of fast and kind of slow. And that helps kind of bring people in. But so connection is really, really important. And I mean, notice, this is my style, and I would never urge any of you to be me, because you're not me. Remember back to the genuine self, genuine, authentic. Well, I'm a little hyper, and I have to really work to kind of contain myself. But it really matters to me that I make a connection with you, and that's why you see me kind of lean in some. That's just my own particular style. So, but let's talk a little bit more about working within the confines, and you'll see this on page 2, where I'm about to do. I mean, I liken Zoom or any kind of webinar as kind of being on a TV show versus Broadway in a stage, because you and I are familiar with working live somewhere out, which we don't have anymore. And so you're thinking about making this box work, continue. And so that's why, folks, we really must rely on this right here from our chin up, the eye contact and the smile and our voices. It's really, really critical. So the physical you, I say solid colors are better. I mean, that's just me, because it's easier on the eyes. I'm wearing white today. I'm just a fan of kind of vibrant colors that kind of pop versus some kind of a busy top. I just like to stay that. I don't know how many of you suffer from placeholder isms. You say or ah or okay. At first, it's distracting, but if you do it a lot, it can become deadly. And I work with a lot of clients who don't realize they use these placeholders. And I call them placeholders because they hold the place until you pull off the next word. I used to do that. I used to have this thing called okay. I did a talk a million years ago in Raleigh when I first launched my business, folks. I'll just tell you this story. Here I am, a professional speaker. I get up and I do about an hour talk in Raleigh. Afterwards, I'm coming off the stage and there's this guy who hands me this folded up yellow piece of paper, like legal pad kind of stuff. And I thought, well, this was a long time ago too. Giving me his phone numbers. Au contraire, Bren, au contraire. I get off the stage, I open it up, and guess what it was? It was this hash list. You know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 3, 4, boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. And it had at the top 148 circled. And then he had in quotes at the top of the page, okay. So I had said, okay, that many times. I wanted the floor to open me up and just kind of fall through. I thought, are you kidding me, Bren? Oh, I was mortified. I made my way out the door. I saw him standing. And of course, I kind of thought maybe I could kind of slink by, but I said, no, Bren, don't do that. Go over and thank him. So I went over to this gentleman and I said, I never knew. I thank you so much. And then he said, well, you're welcome. I only started counting after 15 minutes. So there were more than that. And folks, I had to go to work on myself to get rid of it. And the way I did it is I thought, okay, what we're really after is steady, fluid speech, whether it's steady fast or steady slow. And because I grew up, when I did at these things, we had hula hoops. And I bet many of you know what hula hoops are. Some of you may not. But anyway, I thought, you know what? That's what it takes for a hula hoop to stay up. It has to be steady. Steady fast, steady slow. And so while I was talking, I thought, I imagined a hula hoop going around me. I did. And that taught me steady speech so that I could speed up, I could slow down. So that method there helped me. But first you have to hear it. And that is a very long answer, I know, to placeholders. Folks, they can be deadly. They can be deadly. And so, enough on that. Words, we've talked about that, getting those words that you just really can't wait to say. I think of one of those like fertilizer primers, boom, 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 you prime, and then it sprays. What I like to think of, and I would urge you all to do, is I would be so full of this cool information that you can't wait to share, that it's almost like being primed and spray. And just like, oh, I can't wait to share this awesomeness about my store. Camera shot. It's more intimate if it's like I am right now versus I've seen some people in Zoom like way over there. So I like a little closer. I think that intimacy helps making a connection. Look in the camera. Audio, make sure it works. I have a headset, but I didn't bring it, or little earbuds. I didn't bring them today. But I think those also can amplify the quality of your talk. Lighting. You don't want light behind you. Light in front. Where I am right now, I'm sitting by a window over here on my right that's kind of natural light. And then I'm filling in with like ring lights and things around me. And so lighting is important. So think about that in your environment. Also think about what's around you. You don't want anything distracting. I've got books back there. You can't do any better than that. But think about your environment. So think about what that's saying about you. And background noise, if you've got a dog, maybe put them somewhere else. I've got chickens actually. And before I got on the call today, I called them ladies. I had 3 of my ladies here at my door kind of pecking. And I thought, oh my gosh, are they going to do that? But even if they did, that would be awesome. But they haven't come back. But so that is kind of what I wanted to share with you folks. Then I'll turn it over to some questions here in a minute. But before I leave, I want to circle back to what I was talking about at the outset, and that is attitude, and leave you with one other attitude that I think is important, and I strongly believe in it. And folks, that's an attitude of gratitude, letting go of the outcome, that you show up fully present, you give it your best shot, and that's as good as it gets right there. And then being thankful for whatever comes your way or doesn't. I don't know how I would live if I didn't live this way. I mean, you all know I'm a debut author and going around, and having 1 or 2 people come to book events, which was absolutely fine with me, because guess what? I was grateful for those 1 or 2 people. And so if you go with that kind of attitude, I think that's an attractor also versus a repeller. So Linda Marie, why don't we open it up to some questions? How's that?
Sounds good. I was being hypnotized by your presentation. Thank you. It was so good.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I just want to be helpful. That's my prayer each day, folks, is that I'm of use. And so when I thought I had something of use for you folks, I wanted to share it.
Thank you. Well, we do have questions. One bookseller asks, if we see that we are not connecting with the audience, and I wanted to mention that the scenario that they're in is that they will see, they're pitching to a bunch of publicists from different publishers at one time.
Oh, it's at one time. Okay.
And they'll be able to see all those faces. So this bookseller says, if we see that we are not connecting with the audience, what do you recommend we do to reconnect? And maybe also tip someone you're presenting to a group of people. That might be helpful too.
Right. So I would ask myself some questions. You can't like say, oops, I see I'm not connecting, so let me think about this. You kind of have to keep talking and have your brain going. And I would ask myself, am I being boring? I hate to put it that way, but am I boring these people? Am I going on too long and they're just kind of checked out? And am I saying something that's not really relevant? Is that helpful? I had to learn that the hard way. I did a talk one time down in Shreveport, and it was a talk that I'd done, and this is not my book, this is my business, a lot. And so I get down to Shreveport and I'm in this audience, and there's at a Marriott with these round tables. You all know what I'm talking about. And I start off kind of the same way that I had started in Atlanta and Miami and blah, 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 blah. But y'all, I got to tell you something. I wasn't connecting. I saw people's body language, kind of folded up. I saw people within 5 minutes get up and go get some more coffee in the back of the room. And I said, Bren, you're in trouble, girl. You're in trouble. This ain't working here. And I figured out why. Shreveport, Louisiana. And I was I had my little business suit on, and I was, very polished, blah, blah, blah. But I had to realize that I was too polished for Shreveport. It was too much. I was a know-it-all. I was coming across as a know-it-all. And so what I had to do is slow my speech down. And I had to start peppering my words with, hey, I want to find out what's going on here in Shreveport. And then I figured out that there was this guy on this left table over here who was somebody in the room. And I gradually made my way to him. And I said, sir, I haven't met you yet. How long have you worked here in this town? Oh, I've been working 18 years. Yeah, no, I bet you have some stories. And it was the coolest thing because like a domino, the table began to relax. So what you've got to do, folks, is you've got to have the guts to ask yourself, I'm not giving this person what they need. I'm going on too long. My attitude is not there. Maybe I'm too subdued. I don't know. But that's what I would do, is kind of survey yourself. The other thing you could do is stop and ask a question, right? To engage that person. You might say, well, all right, so I've been talking about blah, 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 blah. You might just ask a question. What do you think about that? Or something that would help engage that person would be another great tactic to use, I think. Does that help?
Well, if there are multiple people, do you recommend like looking at one person, like pitching to one or do you think you should keep it's because you're looking at the camera, but you'll see a lot of faces?
Yeah, I would kind of do a rotation thing, Linda Marie, because sometimes when I do my coaching, I'll have, maybe 5 or 6 people listed up there. And yeah, my camera's at the top of my laptop, but I'm forever kind of doing this kind of thing and giving each one some attention, each one.
Another question is, another bookseller writes, my question is more about how the actual speed dating Zoom will work. She's wondering whether, I guess she looks at this as an opportunity to show her store while she's pitching. She's wondering about moving around with a laptop or staying put because she'd like to show her interior of her store. She only has 12 to 15 minutes. So.
Oh, well, I think if that's something that matters to you, I think you should do it. I do. I mean, if you think that's part of your coolness, then yeah. But I would practice being steady with it because you don't want to like bounce. So I would do a dry run and I would, limit the time just, to give the flavor of the store, but to keep it. But I think that's a great idea if that's something that you're especially proud of. And, I didn't use that word. Proud. That should have been in my list, what you're proud of. So I love that you're thinking about that.
Just different ways to make your presentation different than the other ones.
Yeah, because see, you want to be memorable. You want to stand out because how many will they be listening to that day? I mean, will it be like, what, 50, 100?
There'll be a big group of publishers and they're going to be listening to, my math is off at the moment, but they might they might be listening to like 12 to 20 pitches each day.
Yeah. So. And so what will start to happen is it'll start to blur for them. I mean, you all know that it'll start to blur. So whatever you can do to make yourself stand out, memorable, yes, do it.
Another question is, I can answer. They ask, will be able to use pictures in the presentation to the publishers? Is it something you would recommend? Bren, do you recommend more focusing on them, like the intimacy of the conversation, or do you think bringing it there? They are presenting a press kit at the same time, which will be also on the screen.
Oh, okay.
So what's your recommendation there?
So what's the question really?
Will you be able to use pictures in the presentation to the publishers? Is this something you recommend?
Now,
I-
you said pictures of what?
It may
Pictures
be
of,
the interior of their store. I'm not sure either.
yeah, I mean, as long as it's kind of limited, that it's not all of that. But yeah, I think if there's something especially that's got your fingerprints all over it, then I would do it. And folks, let me address this. I mean, you all, you might be thinking, well, Bren, why didn't you just share your handout on the screen here, girl? Why are you waiting until like the end? It's because of what I believe in. I believe that communication is about connection, and I didn't want your eyes reading something over here. That's it. I wanted to connect with you. So yeah, I would do it, but I would limit it. I wouldn't have it a lot of that. But again, if it's something you're really proud of and it's part of your secret sauce, then do it.
Some of the other questions, I just want to let the people know who asked the questions that there may be a screen share happening with your press kit while you're talking. So I'm not sure about your ability to share your screen. So I don't want to mislead you in this webinar about what's possible. Eileen of NABA will be sending you some information about your presentation and what's possible as far as screen sharing and what you can do. So I don't want to ask Bren questions and then her answer in a way that departs from the
Yeah.
logistical arrangement of the group.
You're exactly right. I think that's smart, Linda Marie.
Some people recommend when you're presenting that you turn off the ability to see yourself. What do you think about that? Do you think that you should make sure that you can see what you're looking like, or do you think that's?
I do. I mean, I see me up there, and I wish I weren't as old as I am sometimes. But yeah, it does. It shows, the lighting. I mean, it doesn't bother me at all. In fact, it enhances. I like seeing that I'm I'm not gonna say I look good. I don't misinterpret, but that I'm presentable. I guess I'll put it that way.
What do you think about practicing your pitch and how should one go about that? I know I noticed in your handout you said bullet lists versus memorizing a speech.
Totally. Oh my gosh, folks, I didn't, it's in the handout, but I'm hoping you don't read, right? You don't read, don't have a script. Oh my gosh, that is just going to zap your connection. So I would have bullets. I would definitely have bullets. And I'm a big believer in practice, Linda Marie. And here's how I believe about practice. Is, sometimes I've seen people practice, they, have their bullets printed out and they just kind of read. But practice out loud is what I want to say. Practice out loud, letting your ears hear you talk. And that will be an amazing reinforcement. So I'm hoping you'll just have some bullets. I'm hoping that you won't read. I'm telling you, professional newscasters can read teleprompters and do pretty well, but most of us are not professional readers. I'm hoping, and here's the thing, folks. People go, oh, you know what? If I have to read it because I might forget something. Well, it must not have been that important to say if you forget it. Or I have to read it because what if I mispronounce a word, or what if I flub something? Folks, if you've got that connection, that authentic, genuine connection with your audience, that's going to buy you a lot of time. And if you flub a word, that's not going to be marks off against you because you've connected with the audience, and that's what matters.
Mm-hmm. I have another question that's kind of going along with what you just said. How do I turn my written out presentation into something more conversational, engaging?
Mm-hmm. Talk it out loud. And many times what we do is when we start to make our notes, we kind of keep our mouth quiet and we write our answers down. What I would do, and it's why I travel with a tape recorder, a large part of my novel, I talk into it. I would talk my answers out loud, making them conversational. On the front end is to say your answers out loud and then get it down versus just staying quiet. because sometimes when we write things down, it's kind of made to be read, but not necessarily made to be said. So if you want it to be said, then I say it out loud to start with. Does that help, Linda Marie?
So I've read, and I believe that the way we end things is as endings and beginnings are really important. Do you have any advice on like beginning and endings of your pitch?
Is I would do, there's a big satisfaction in like a circle completion. So however I began, I would return to at the end somehow, in some form, return to it. You know, like, let's talk about how to begin though. We haven't talked about that necessarily. I like to tell stories. And I would begin with some kind of an anecdote that gets at your secret sauce, that gets at what you do really, really well. I think that would be a great way to begin. And so I would return to it, Linda Marie, at the end, somehow, some echo of it to give this satisfied sense of completion. Mm-hmm. You know, another way that people could begin, I imagine, if right, really bold and really direct, is the man just put on the table what it is you're after right off the bat. I mean, I see some personalities could pull that off. Not all personalities could pull that off. But I love the anecdote that kind of sets the stage and gives the audience a sense of what you're talking about. And also telling a story helps warm us up because we're natural storytellers anyway. But I wouldn't have it. I wouldn't have a throwaway, like, you know, just a kind of a warm-up act throwaway. I would have that story get at what I'm good at, or what my story is good at, or what I love, or some success. I think would be a great way to begin.
Okay. We have another question. I'm just going to answer it from Sherry. She asks, are we speaking for 15 minutes to all or a few minutes a few times? You're going to be doing one pitch to everyone at once. So you won't be speaking to individual people. It's going to be 12 minutes to a group of people. So it's one pitch. And that I guess that's when, Bren, you were talking about scanning the audience to see how they're taking it in.
Right. And I mean, I'd even do this. This is my personality. Again, you know, you have to be the authentic you, but it would be in my personality as I'm scanning people. And let's say I see somebody laugh, you know, or some kind of reaction to what I said. I would massage that. I go, oh, you think it's funny too. I mean, really, those kinds of things help pull people in. And I imagine you'll have their names at the bottom like we do, right, Linda Marie, probably? You know,
probably, yes. You'll know who they are, yes.
That would be awesome. And say, okay, so Linda Marie, I see you're laughing. So, you know, you think that's funny too. You see, and that helps pull them in. It also tells your audience that you're paying attention to them, that they're not just like blowing in the wind out here somewhere, that you're really, honest to God, paying attention to them.
I know we're getting near the end of the time. I did wonder if you're really nervous, since you've worked with a lot of authors who used to appear on TV, are there some tricks to think about when you're nervous? I know that people tend to speak more rapidly or forget to smile. I wondered if you had some tips about how to combat that.
And it's a psychological thing for me. Because I think sometimes when we're nervous, we've kind of made it about us, kind of made it about me. And maybe, you know, I'm nervous. I hope I don't mess up, you know, blah, blah, blah. So the first thing I do is I become my best friend. And so I give myself accolades. Bren, you can do this. You're going to do well. So kind of a good self-talk would be the first step I'd make. And the second thing, because I believe it's not about me, and you all, as you all are representing your stores, it's really not about you either. It's about your store. So I would cast my attention to my store, and I would know that I wanted to do a good job for my store. It's not just about me here. I am like the representative for that. And those might sound kind of wooey, like woohoo stuff, Linda Marie, but I think if you've practiced You can't wait for the opportunity to share this coolness about your store. And you become your best friend. You go, Bren, you got this, girl. You got this. You're going to do a great job representing, my store, because it matters that we bring in authors, or whatever the goal is. It really matters. And so I just try and set myself up for success with all the things I've been talking about. And don't let one one other thing I want to say. We all have these negative tapes that play in our heads. My twin sister, on the way to high school graduation, said this in the back seat: "I hope I don't trip." Now, this is crazy because her name's Linda, and she was the school star athlete, sitting beside me saying, "I hope I don't trip. I hope I don't trip." And I said, "Linda, shut up. Stop that." Do y'all know what she did? Guess what? Yep. They called Linda McClain. Linda McClain, come up, and so she goes and she, gets up on the riser, and she had red sandals on. This foot kind of trips on the riser, and y'all, she went down and busted her nose, right? And you go, okay, self-fulfilling prophecy. She programmed herself for that. And so it's really important, folks, that if any of you have any of those old tapes playing in your head, that you say, you are not welcome here, boom, pull them out of your head and throw them and smash them. And then in the place, talk about how, yeah, I've got this. I've got this. I can do this. I can do this. It really matters, the self-talk to your head. Because see, our subconscious doesn't take a joke. Even if you go, oh, Brandon, I was just kidding. No, our subconscious doesn't take a joke. So set yourself up for success.
It's true. We can talk so negatively to ourselves. We would never talk to other people that way, the way we do that.
No. So get rid of that.
I've done this myself, that using little Post-its of affirmations during the actual talk, or like reminding yourself to smile, have fun.
I think that's beautiful. Just put a little sticky on your computer I think that's a beautiful recommendation. Yeah. Or maybe there's some key words that you want to use, a smile, whatever. But yeah, do whatever you can and have to set yourself up to win.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for this time with the booksellers, and we'll be sending them your handout after the presentation. In the handout, Bren has included her email address if you want to email her with questions. And we'll be sending you some instructions about the pitch process. I believe, as I said, I believe that Kit of NABA is going to be sharing your screen while you present. So there may be limitations on what you can do. So we'll clarify that for you too. But good luck, all of you, next week. We'll be there with you as you pitch. And thank you, Bren, for your time.
Right. May I say some closing remarks?
Yes.
Folks, I wish you all the very best. You all are doing part of God's work, I think, having bookstores. I was a reader before I was a writer. And so you all are doing really an important service in your communities. And I know that I speak on behalf of all writers, that we thank you so much. And so be your best friend, set yourself up for success, have some fun. And folks, if you want any other questions for me, you've got my email address, reach out to me. I'm here to help you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you next week.
Thank you. Bye-bye.